Conference USA Championship?
I don't think it's a conference championship. I think it's a national.
Well, I grew up in Memphis.
It's Around the Horn, delivered by Pizza Hut. Here's Tony Reali.
Hey now.
Go crazy, everybody. Welcome back to the show that scores the argument. Here they are, the national panel in L.A. Bill Plaschke.
Tony, in the mountains above my house this morning, there was a dusting of snow. I love L.A.
Woody Page in Denver.
I'm back from spring training. I'm tan, I'm rested, and I'm ready to win again.
Shave the goatee as well. Kalishaw in Dallas.
I got to be honest, this looks like a very beatable panel. I'm sorry.
In Boston, Jackie Mack.
Not by you.
Tim, I got to tell you, you took the words right out of my mouth.
Okay.
Well, then mute her for taking the words
coming
out of his
from over
mouth.
here.
Let's proceed.
It's the first word.
All right. Last Friday, none of you wanted to give BYU a 1 seed. On Monday, all of you did.
Not now, though.
Today, I aim to see if you guys are going to try to take that back. Brandon Davies' season over because of an honor code violation. And as the team goes forward without their leading rebounder, the question is, where does the tournament committee see them? Should the selection committee consider Davies' suspension and absence when seeding BYU, Plaschke?
Absolutely not. The tournament committee's job is to reward the body of work for the season. It's not to predict who's going to win the tournament. Back in 1990, Loyola Marymount lost Hank Gathers. He died, and they went from a 5th seed to an 11th seed, and guess what? They still went to the Elite Eight. Don't make that mistake again, NCAA. And the second point I want to make is I'm sick and tired of people already over the country giggling and twittering and teetering about, they violated BYU honor code. What did he do? Hold some girl's hand? Listen, it's BYU's rules. We have to respect them and respect the fact that they're enforcing those rules in a difficult time. Quit joking about it. It's a good thing BYU is doing. We rip teams for not suspending guys, and now we're joking because they are. Okay. No, this is a good thing
Woody
for BYU.
Page, your thoughts?
Tony, mute yourself. 2 weeks ago, I said there should be a number 1 seed, and the Cougars still should be
You were the
a number
one.
1 seed. And it would be a travesty if they were dropped from number 1. Here, the school is doing the right thing. If he violated the honor code at BYU, he deserves to be removed from the team. They could have turned a deaf eye, or deaf ear, I guess, and 2 weeks from now, they could have taken action, and instead they did it right now when they should have done it, and the point is that there's no way the NCAA committee should penalize them for doing the right thing
I'm going to turn a blind eye to your misstatement there and give you an extra point there. Kalishaw, join us.
I got to agree. I think they did this to Purdue due to injuries last year, dropped him to a number 4. Did it to Cincinnati with Kenyon Martin about 10 years ago when he got hurt. And Plaschke's right. Their job isn't to project what teams are going to be like without a star player. It's to say what these teams have done for 3 months, for 4 months, and let the teams deal with the injury. They may not be, missing that player that much. The player that BYU's losing, gets in foul trouble all the time. He only plays 24 minutes. They're used to playing games without Davies. They may be able to overcome this better than we think.
But he's their leading rebounder. Jackie, what do you think of this loss?
Well, I agree with your premise, Tim, but I disagree with just about everything else you just said. Davies is central to what BYU does. He is very important to them, and they're not going to go very far at all without him because he is one of their most athletic players, one of their inside presence. That aside, I do agree with these guys, Tony. It's not the selection committee's job to say, okay, because they don't have Davies now, we should drop him this many spots. That's not what they're there to do. They're there to set things up based on the information they have. So I think it would be really unfair to penalize BYU too severely because this player won't be there.
Plaschke back in.
Yeah, I mean, is the committee saying, well, Tennessee didn't have Bruce Pearl for so many games, so we'll judge them on how they did in those games. Those games don't count. No, again, it's not. And you can bet athletic directors in that room think this may happen to their school. I think they should it would send a horrible message to say that a school is doing the right thing and suspending the kid for breaking its rules, and now we're going to do the wrong thing and hurt that team.
Well, Jackie, I have to disagree with you somewhat. They do have a very deep team. They've got a kid named Chris Collinsworth I watched during the course of the season. They're a guard-oriented team. They're supposed to play defense inside. I think they can do that with the backup players they have available.
Yeah. A deep team suggests to me you have 8 or 9 players you can count on. They usually go only 6 or 7 deep. That, to me, is not a definition of a deep team.
My point is, in college especially, a lot of times teams lose a starter. Players we're not familiar with at all step up, and it doesn't change the team that much.
So 2 on this panel, Page and Kalishaw, don't think BYU is done just yet, just because of the loss of Davies.
No, not at all. Jimmer.
We move on. Talk some NBA. Jameer Nelson schooling Chauncey Billups last night. Over and over and over again in the fourth quarter. It's the same play over. A high screen from Howard, and then Nelson to the basket. Magic, the statement win over New York to start that 3-game in 4-day span. Next up, Miami, and then Chicago. Did last night prove to you that the Magic are a major player in the East, Jackie?
Well, I do find it slightly amusing that you're calling it a statement win over New York. I think that's kind of funny, to be frank with you, because I don't think anybody thinks the Knicks are going to win the NBA
New York just beat Miami
championship.
2 nights earlier.
Well, that's all well and good. But listen, what we're talking about Orlando, and here's why I always give Orlando a chance. People are talking about Derrick Rose as the MVP. I understand that, LeBron. But people are not talking enough about Dwight Howard and what this guy has done for his team. And I think that's because Orlando's made some deals. They've been up and down a little bit. But go look at his numbers. He's added that little drop step. He's added the little fadeaway. We always talked about him being limited offensively. That has certainly not been true this year. He's been putting up MVP numbers. He, to me, is the most dominant player, big man in particular, in the East. So you can't rule out Orlando completely because they have him. And I'll tell you what, when Jameer Nelson plays the way he played in that game last night, they always have a chance. He might be the key to their
team.
team.
I've never ruled out Orlando. They're the one team. We talk a lot about Boston, Miami. Now we talk about Chicago. Orlando's the team that's been to the Eastern Conference Finals the last 2 years. They know how to win playoff games. I think they're a better team now with the players they added, getting Turkoglu and Richardson in the trade. And really the development of J.J. Redick has been very big this year. They're still thin in terms of the bench, but he comes off the bench and is effective. And I think as far as last night goes, Jameer having a big game against Billups goes a lot towards his confidence and their feeling that they have a point guard who can play with the good point guards in the East.
Mr. Page.
Wait for it. Wait for it. No, they are not a team that's going to be a factor beyond the first round in the playoffs. I listened to what you two panelists say, and you're talking about, oh, yeah, they could do this. This was a team that a week ago their center was calling out. He was saying they weren't playing, that they weren't responding. He was trying to urge them, and a victory over the New York Knicks doesn't mean anything. You can look at the numbers, but numbers lie, as we well know, and even though their numbers have been better since those trades, I don't see a team that's gelled. I don't see a team that can beat out Boston, Miami, Chicago during the playoffs. Yes, they can be an early factor, but they're not going to be a major factor.
Let me say, Woody Page, that was worth the wait. All right, Plashke, get in there.
I'm backing my man Woody. You're exactly right on this. And Tim, you're saying, yeah, they made the conference finals the last 2 years. That was with defense. That's with Gortat and Petrus. They traded away defense. Now they have to. They have to outscore people. They have to outscore people now, and they can't do that on a consistent basis. They're a worse defensive team than they were before the trade, and defense has always been one of their hallmarks. You saw just last week, Dwight Howard was screaming at him on the bench because they weren't playing with intensity. They need that intensity. I don't think they bring it every night.
Bill is right about one thing, and that is Gortat. They are going to miss him when it gets down into the half court. So, no, listen, he was a big, strong backup center, and Howard gets technicals and gets into foul trouble. He's more important than you think. You very cynical host.
Who knew the loss of Gortat and his 15 minutes a night was going to be this critical? They also, Plashke, got rid of Vince Carter, who doesn't play any defense. So that's not going to hurt him any.
Page, last word.
Well, once again, when you talk about that bench, I think that's going to be the course of the problem during the playoffs. That, yeah, they can get that kind of production out of Jameer Nelson, but they're not going to get it out of that bench. We've seen that.
Last
they
word,
go
Plashke.
up and down.
Orlando is not making it back to the conference finals this year, and I bet nobody in this panel can say they are. Say it. Somebody say it. Nobody's going to say it. They won't.
I just did.
I agree.
That's a
Hey,
fact.
Kalisha, when you said this was a beatable panel, did you mean that they were going to beat you? Is that what you meant?
That's what I meant. That's exactly what I meant. No, it's early.
We've been horned. We're taking a break.